this video I'm going to show you my fire kits, which are going to be components of an eventual bug out bag, as it were. Now I don't know if I'm doing this the right way or not, but my intentions were to have within the bug out bag lots of little self-contained units, as it were. For example, this is, as you can see, this is the fire kit, and I've actually got two of these, and these are actually from old tobacco tins, so they're nice and strong as well. And I've actually opened this one. I had them both sealed with duct tape like this, which just adds a little bit of waterproofing. And I've opened this one for two reasons, because I want to replace one item and augment another. The item I want to replace is the firesteel. I've got a Scout model firesteel, which is capable of up to 3,000 strikes. And I want to replace it with one of these, which is the Army model firesteel, which you can see there's quite a considerable difference in the steel itself. And these ones are capable of 12,000 strikes. So I want to add that one to this, and I'll just keep this one for general use, and also practice at lighting fires. As an everyday person, you know, lighting fires is not something that I do. Should the need arise, it would be a good idea to have a few practice runs, as it were. So I'm going to use the Scout model for that. And the other reason was that packed within both of these kits was a roll of cotton wool, which was to act as a tinder. This is actually a sort of a medical grade cotton wool. It's very dense compared to the light fluffy cotton wool balls that you get. What I wanted to do with this, I actually saw a video here on YouTube, and it showed what you can do to aid fire starting. I mean, if you take cotton wool, just regular ball of cotton wool, I'm going to break off about 2 inches worth there. Watch what happens when this lights. Oof, away it goes. Very, very flammable. Very, very quick burning, as you can see. I mean, that's that whole piece up in flames. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's just about, on a windy day, that's just going to burn even faster. And of course, if you're trying to get your kindling going on there, trying to get the fire going, it's not giving you much chance, and it's also using up quite a bit of cotton wool. Now, this was actually the piece that I actually started this earlier. This is about the same size piece of cotton wool, only what I've done with it is I've coated it liberally with good old common Vaseline, petroleum jelly. Watch what happens now when I light it. This one was lit before, but you can see the difference. It's burning like a candle. I mean, it's the same principle. I mean, the cotton wool is acting as a kind of a wick to the Vaseline's wax, as it were. And as the Vaseline burns off, or presumably vaporizes like candle wax, and then eventually gets down to the actual cotton wool. I mean, if I turn this around, you can still see the cotton wool there. It's still white, just right down here on the tip. And it's also burning with a stronger flame, which will be more resilient to wind and water, because obviously the Vaseline has a waterproofing effect on the cotton wool anyway. One advantage is that you can use a much smaller piece of cotton wool rather than a whole ball of cotton wool. Now maybe just use, what, a tenth of it? So what I've also been doing is I've been taking balls of cotton wool, completely slathering them in Vaseline, and then putting them into these 35mm film canisters. So there's 3 cotton wool balls in each of these, absolutely packed with Vaseline. If I was to break each one of these into 15 pieces, there's 45 guaranteed fires, if you like. In fact, you could probably break them into smaller pieces, so you can maybe get up to maybe 60 fires from just one of these. So yeah, inside each of these boxes I've got a roll of cotton wool, and in the case of this one it's going to be impregnated with Vaseline. Waterproof matches, which I've I mean, although they're waterproof as it is, I've put them in a waterproof little plastic pack and then duct taped it as well. The striker's in there. Always remember to put the striker in, because a lot of these matches won't strike them off a stone or whatever, but it doesn't seem to work, so always try and get the striker in there as well. So the striker card's in there. This kit, this other kit, which also does actually have a 12,000 fire, the Army firesteel. Oh, and that's another thing, each one will have a disposable lighter. It also has a magnifying lens, magnifying glass, which in theory should be your first port of call. If you're going to try and start a fire, and if it's during the day and there's sunlight, that's the one to use, that's the one to try first, because it's not like these consumable items. You know, eventually the box of matches will go. I mean, there's what, 46, so there's 46 fires. The disposable lighter, I don't know how many you're going to get, you know, how many strikes you're going to get out of that, but eventually the fuel will run out, as will the firesteel. I mean, okay, 12,000 strikes is going to take a little while to get through that, but eventually it will go. Not so with the magnifying lens, providing it's obviously during the day. I mean, I've got these other items in there because I am not a woodsman. I don't do this thing normally. I mean, I'm like a lot of people. I'm getting information that's coming at me. I'm seeing the things that are happening, and I want to be ready. Whether I'm any good with them is another matter, but they're there. And okay, if I have to start using the matches and the lighters and whatnot to start with, as I'm doing that, I could be honing my skills using the firesteel and the magnifying glass, so that maybe by the time these do run out, I'll be a dab hand with them. I've also got this stuff here. This is also from the same company that make the firesteels. And this is Maya dust, M-A-Y-A, from the Mayan Empire. And what it is basically shavings of a type of pine, which has about an 80% resin content, which makes it flammable. So I've got a few tins of that. I've got 3 of these, although the other 2 came in these really nice metal tins, which are going to prove handy as well. And I was able to cram 3 tins into 2 tins just by compressing it a little bit, which is great because, as I say, it then leaves these little tins free for other equipment. I mean, I've got my chainsaw in there, my little handheld chainsaw, so that fits nice and neatly in there, keeps that all nice and contained. So that the idea here is to actually have these as part of a bug out kit, rather than having actually one bag that has everything in it, which in theory could be lost, and in which case you lose everything. I'm going to have everything individually, like for example a fire kit. I'm going to have a little survival kit, which has the whistle, the compass, the fishing kit, the foil blankets, signalling mirrors, and then I'm going to have a little medical kit. And the idea is to have one for each vehicle. I have 2 cars. I've got a little 3-door hatchback Fiat, and I also have an ex-military Land Rover, one of the long wheelbase Land Rovers, which is kind of, it's my hobby, but it's also kind of an insurance policy. I mean, if you could imagine, if these scenarios do play out, you could be pretty sure that a lot of people are going to try and get out of the cities, which means you're going to get a lot of congestion, a lot of blocked roads, especially the country roads. And if it really comes down to it, do you want to be stuck in a line of traffic, or do you want to just pull off the road and go across the fields? The Land Rover at least gives that option. The more options you have, the better. So the idea was to have one of these in each car, a medical kit in each car, and a little survival kit in each car, as well as having a general bug-out bag that might have larger, bulkier items. This could just fit underneath the seat. You could sellotape this underneath the seat, and it's there. You might forget about it until, it might never, ever, ever be needed. But one of my mottos is better to have and not need than need and not have. And for all this is, it's not exactly heavy, it's not exactly bulky, and it could, as daft as this may sound, it could one day save lives. So that's it for this video. That's my fire kits. Probably the next one will be the survival one. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that because the items are slightly bigger, and I'm also still looking for an appropriate container. Anyway, here's hoping we never have to use them.